Right, so where is this story really moving? Is this also now brewing to be another dispute in the South China Sea, much like what we saw between China and the Philippines a few weeks ago? Let's try and make sense of this from Mr. Xisha. He's the Vice President of the China Institute of International Studies. First of all, this national law, and I want you to explain this to our viewers in some sense. Does it have any kind of bearing internationally? It's a law passed by the Vietnam National Assembly. It's a domestic law. But does it have any kind of standing internationally? Can it, for example, be challenged in an international court?
No, not at all. It does not have any chance standing in international bearing. First of all, it violates the United Nations Charter, and which features respect sovereignty and territorial integrity. And even the UNCLOS just passed, for example, took effective in the early 80s, but it does not intend to change the sovereignty and the territorial integrity. China enjoying the Xisha and Nansha's sovereignty many years ago, we can trace back, and China also has reinforced its sovereignty ties. For example, in the 1959, China established the office which just earmarked the administration to exercise the power of all these islands and the adjacent territory. And secondly, it also violates the consensus reached between Chinese and Vietnamese top leaders. And thirdly, it violates the declaration on the parties, on the conduct of the parties in the South China Sea, which came into effect in 1992.
So why then is Vietnam passing this new law? What is the intention? What are they hoping to achieve with this new law?
Well, this has been very provocative. It infringed upon China's sovereignty on it. And Vietnam, in the past decades, several decades, it just take such kind of steps to so-called to reinforce its so-called sovereignty on this island for economic reasons and for strategic reasons.
So do you see a pattern here? I mean, first it was the Philippines, which again were a dispute over the Hwang Yan Island. Now Vietnam. Do you see a pattern here in these disputes in the South China Sea getting overblown, getting exaggerated, getting much media coverage?
Well, surely it became more complex since more and more actors get involved, like what you mentioned about Philippines, Vietnam, and others players. Not only is the players in this region, but also some players from outside also get involved.
It's interesting you mentioned that this coming a couple of weeks before we're going to have that ASEAN Foreign Ministers Conference in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And some ASEAN countries, including countries like the Philippines, have been urging ASEAN to take a collective stand vis-a-vis disputes in the South China Sea. Other members like Cambodia have been reluctant to do that. This is also going to be a foreign ministers meeting attended by the US Secretary of State. Do you think there will be a joint statement issued by ASEAN? Do you think the US will urge ASEAN to issue a unified and common statement on disputes on the South China Sea?
Well, let me make the point pretty clear. First of all, the disputes or any controversial claims of sovereignty, just the problems between China and the claimant. There are just a couple of claimants. And those who are not claimant they should hands off this issue. So, of course, my understanding is that we reject any kind of collective response from the ASEAN and from others against China. And China is very much committed to address those problems in political ways.
All right, we'll wait and see. We've got a couple of weeks before that big ASEAN conference in Phnom Penh. Thanks very much for joining us, Mr. Xisha. He's the Vice President of the China Institute of International Studies. This now dispute between China and Vietnam. Strong statement both from the Foreign Ministry as well as from the CPPCC Foreign Affairs Committee. You're watching the